We are now live.
I got a dry throat just listening to Borkovich talk.
I know, yeah, he's nonstop.
Joe, we're live.
You live?
Yes.
It's almost 7, it's 6:50 now. It's 7.
There's 3.
Will, it's 7.
Okay. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Do we have roll call, please?
Commissioner Robbins,
Here.
Commissioner Rushton,
Present.
Commissioner Vonick,
Here.
Commissioner Wessel,
Here.
Commissioner Sudas Little,
Here,
and you need to state where you are.
here, Leland Township, from my home.
Thank you. Commissioner Allgaier, here. Commissioner Lautner, present. All present.
Thank you. So then I would bring us to approval of a board minutes. Do we have, I don't think we have any here available, do we?
Oh, yes, I gave you a sheet with 3.
Or the blue sheet.
Oh, blue sheet.
But, yeah, but they have they were all just emailed, correct?
They were all emailed, yes.
Commissioner Wessel.
I move to approve the minutes of the special session, May 29, 2020, the special session, February 3, 2021, and the executive board session, February 9, 2021.
Second.
Any questions or all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And raise your hands, I'm sorry. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. All right, so then that would bring us to approval of our agenda. And the only a change I would have is move up 13B to at the beginning. Right, make it A, say,
Thank you. 13B is going to be,
we're gonna start with that.
okay.
Commissioner,
That's going to be number 1.
yes.
I'd like to ask that we switch 4 and 5. I'd like to start off with a motion.
We have to approve our agenda first.
But I'm asking it for a change to the agenda.
Okay, so what would you like to change?
Just do 5 before 4.
5 before 4. All right, so we'll make 5 number 4 and 4 number 5?
Yep.
Okay. And so that would be the two changes then. Commissioner West,
Move to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. We now have addenda, that will bring us to public comment.
And we do have a lady on the phone. Are you still there, man?
Yes, and if you, please call 231-256-8109.
Okay, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay, hi, my name's Linda Dewey, and I am a resident of Glen Arbor. And first of all, I would like to thank you all for your service. It's often a thankless task, and I want to thank you, all of you, every single one of you. I understand that there are concerns about limiting the scope of study for water quality, and I think we need to be cautious. We've seen what those kinds of concerns can do with water. Looking at Flint, I don't know what exactly the concern is, if it's about money or spending money on the study. We've seen what concerns about money can do to water quality. And boy, Leelanau is all about pristine water. We all know that. And we deserve a state-of-the-art pilot project were worthy of nothing less. So no industry or contrary money interest, I can't imagine that could come in the way between Leelanau and its water. So that's my comment, and I hope we go ahead with a really good project. I'm really excited about it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So please call, for public comment, please call 231-256-8109. 231-256-8109. If you have a radio or the computer on, please turn it down at that time. It does interfere and there is a delay.
While we're waiting, clerk, Madam Clerk, I believe you received some correspondence and they have been posted.
I did, I received, just a second. Yeah, I received something from Steve Makowski, but I believe he was gonna call in and read it. And I received something from the Little Travers Lake Property Association that I forwarded to all the commissioners today, and I think Laura forwarded it too. Those are the only two I think I received.
Okay. And I'll take them through.
Michelle, did you send any of that out to the
I
commissioner?
did.
You did?
Both of them, and Steve also sent his comments to everyone.
I have that.
You
You
had
had
a
another,
Little Travers one?
yeah.
I sent it
Go ahead.
this
Okay.
afternoon late.
You have public comment here now.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead, sir, and please identify yourself.
Yes, my name is John Fletcher. My wife and I wrote an email to the commissioners last week regarding your COVID plan. Since last week, we learned that all the commissioners approved the plan and Commissioner Bunnick signed the certification. The question remains, why are not all commissioners taking action to abide by the plan and wear masks whenever in the government building? We would like an explanation, given we do not know if some commissioners are possible carriers.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Yes, for public comment, please call 231-256-8109. 231-256-8109.
All right, are you calling for public comment? All right, thank you, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Hi, first of all, I'd like to,
Sorry, could you identify yourself, please?
Gary Zamitis. I'm so happy that the Board of Commissioners meetings are televised on YouTube. I'm having a difficulty getting through that. But so when we get public comment, thousands, if not more, are able to hear our concern. At the beginning of each Board of Commissioners meeting, you call for all of us to rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. However, it is a standard at government meetings of elected officials, national, state, county, and township, to say the pledge in a prayer. I would like to reinstate this practice as it is so important for our country in these times. The pledge helps bring unity to our citizens and honor to those who helped make this the greatest country on earth. The 31 words take about 10 seconds to recite. The country is made up of citizens and laws to govern them. Last month, at one of the Board of Commissioners meetings, all commissioners were in attendance, 2 attending on screen from their homes. The meeting began as usual with an asking to rise and recite the pledge. All rose except Commissioner Patricia Soto. All but Soto began reciting the pledge. Wow. She was very deliberate in her actions and silence, sometimes looking directly at the screen while the pledge was being said. What a deliberate act of disrespect to our nation and its citizens. Many in our society have worked hard to make this the greatest country, and some some even dying to give all of us the freedoms and rights we enjoy. This blatant disrespect to our citizens was shocking. She even incited another commissioner, Gwen Gower, to follow her contemptible example. Maybe I should not be surprised, since during her term, Solis Little was found guilty of violating the Open Meetings Act. She's a lawbreaker. Disrespecting our country and citizen has crossed the line, and myself and others call for her resignation now. What is worse, disrespecting our country and its citizens, or disrespecting their race? I believe it's equally contemptible. Her impertinence and insolence have gone beyond acceptable behavior. She has crossed the line, not only as a citizen, but as a Leelanau County Commissioner representing myself and all others in District 5. Again, I call for her resignation. This hypocrisy and disrespect must be purged from our county government. My next call, I'll address other issues. Thank you.
Thank you. So for public comment, please call 231-256-8109. Thank you.
Come for public comment. Here. Go ahead, ma'am.
This is Karen Semitis, and I was calling regarding the last several Board of Commissioner meetings to see some very disturbing behavior. In the past, commissioners and all those in attendance were asked to turn off their cell phones before the start of the meeting. The only exception was Chet, if he was expecting information or a call we needed, or the chairman at the time, as he was on the fire department in Northport. Now I see commissioners texting and reading text on their phones, sometimes during important matters before the board. If members come prepared to the meeting, they don't need to do this. If they needed further information, Chet can do what he's always done, which was do the follow-up and let everybody know. Who are these people texting, and who is texting them? I really am questioning why this is being done during the meeting. I think I need maybe to do a FOIA to find out this information. Also, commissioners attending virtually seem to forget they are attending a commissioners meeting and have people talking to them or handing them notes during active parts of the meeting, even when these commissioners themselves are talking. I would like to know when the rules change to allow this, and if this is allowed, then I should be able to call my commissioner to talk to them personally during the meeting or text them. If people not on site can advise and do talking and giving their input right in the room with commissioners at the time, then we off commissioners should attend virtually, and we could text and even be with them at their homes. This is no way to conduct the people's business. Please review this and look to your policies and rules to conduct these meetings as they should be done. It looks very suspect and leads one to feel the Open Meetings Act could be under attack. Let's work out a way for the meetings to be safe, secure, and properly conducted. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. This is public comment time. Please call 231-256-8109. And if you do have a TV on or a computer, please turn it down.
You call for public comment? Okay. Go ahead, ma'am. Please state your name.
Hi, this is Melissa Dukowski from the Shabbytown. Good evening, commissioners. I saw a meeting where we had a county commissioner bring up a land acknowledgement. So I am in fully support of even having one. budget at the meeting, or maybe when you're receiving the 2% grant money, or posted in your county chambers, or even on the website, to identify and give thanks to the indigenous people of this region. And that's all I have to say for tonight. Thank you, Butch.
Thank you.
Please call 231-256-8109, 231-256-8109 for public comment. All right, receiving no calls, we'll move on then into our communications, proclamations, and presentations. And the first thing would be Mr. Curry from the Michigan Association of Counties. I think he's on, yes. Please go ahead.
I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Steve.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you virtually this evening. I do have some slides I'm going to run through, so I'm going to share my screen if that's okay real quick here. All right. Can you see that okay?
Yes.
All right, great. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Steve Curry. I'm the Executive Director of the Michigan Association of Counties. We're the only organization in the state of Michigan that represents county commissioners. We do a lot of work for you in Lansing. We do a lot of work federally, but we definitely look at it as an effort. So, again, I appreciate the opportunity to kind of give you a brief update on what's been going on with the association over the past few months. So just an update on MAC. We have 16-member board elected by county commissioners, 2 seats from each of our sections. Our board meets at least 4 times a year. Typically at our conferences are 2 times, and then another time in June and November. Our elections for our board are typically held at our annual conference in the fall. This is your current MAC leadership team. Veronica Kleinfeld is the current MAC president. She's from Macomb County. Brooke Hires is first vice president from Ottawa County, and Stan Ponstein is second vice president from Kent County. So what is the purpose of MAC? Of course, I mentioned the advocacy side of things. That's the voice for Michigan counties at the state and federal level. We also provide various education opportunities for a couple conferences a year. We also host regional summits that kind of move regionally around that are little one-day conferences. We also put on the new county commissioner school in cooperation with MSU Extension. We also provide various services to our associates that counties can take advantage of. So moving into some of the legislative issues that are going on both at the state and federal level. Of course, we have, for lack of a better term, the Biden plan at the federal level, which was introduced by the new president. This would earmark about $5 billion in counties across the country, and it's important to note that this would be direct funding from the federal government to every county in the country. It would be distributed by population. So Michigan's 83 counties would be entitled to about $1.5 billion. For Leelanau, that's about $4.2 million. And currently, the use of these funds is for any COVID-related expenses, or any replacement revenue, so any revenue lost, whether it's the fees, any other property tax revenue you possibly lost, or things like that. So we'll see if this gets done. It's obviously a huge investment in local government, something we've never seen at this level before. We are in support of this direct funding the county government, basically because we're not sure what's coming down the pipe. I think there's there's analysis out there that shows there could be some property tax issues coming down the line. There's obviously some fees and things like that counties haven't been able to collect to fund those services that we're mandated to provide and that are our constituents require. So that's an update from the federal level. We also have a variety of priorities we're working through at the state level. All these right now, there are some corresponding slides to each of these, but these were developed through our policy platforms, which are, I'll talk about a little later, but these are all related to different policies within our platform. So 4-year county commissioner terms, Michigan's only one of 5 states that limits county commissioner terms to 2 years. We are supportive of 4-year county commissioner terms. We think it's good government and it makes sense to have those county commissioners have 4-year terms instead of constantly having to run every 2 years. And feel free to interrupt me with any questions, or if you want to wait to the end, that's fine as well. Enacting reforms to improve the functioning of our local courts. This is something that had a lot of traction last year prior to obviously COVID hitting. Basically, this looks at how courts are funded and what's the best way to fund courts. The Trial Court Funding Commission came up with about 7 different recommendations on how courts should be funded. We were part of that commission, and basically, this would get at how courts are funded, how those funds are distributed, and get counties out of the business of funding courts because it's a significant cost to counties funding the court system. Bolstering the system of financing local government. As you know, counties are primarily funded through the 2 mechanisms: property taxes and state revenue sharing dollars. State revenue sharing dollars are something we consistently have to go and advocate for. It's often has a bullseye on it at the state level if there are tight budgets. But it's not the only issue with local government financing. I feel like there should be a secure, dedicated revenue stream. We would like to look at tourism reinvestment excise taxes for our counties. There's also obviously the foreclosure issue right now with the recent ruling from the state Supreme Court, and exempting special millages from tax capture districts we think is a part of that. So kind of from a bigger picture, looking at bolstering financing local government. Another issue we consistently deal with at the state level is property tax exemptions. While oftentimes these property tax exemptions the state legislature is voting on are for good purposes, we feel like that the state should be paying for these, not local governments, and oftentimes they're voting on your budgets. We feel like if the state wants to vote on that, or if the legislature wants to vote on that, they should be footing the bill for it. And we'll be working on kind of getting some of those property tax exemptions that have been passed in the past changed, and preventing the property tax exemptions going forward. Dark stores, we are still working on this issue, something we've been talking about for a while. We basically want to reverse some of the damage by dark stores, looking at some of the deed restrictions that are on there, the way these properties are assessed. We think there's a happy medium to be met in there, and it's something we've been talking about for many years and are going to continue to advocate for. Obviously, infrastructure, water quality. I'm sure in your county with high water levels, erosion issues have come up over the past year. Something we've been talking about in a bunch of our committees. We have a transportation committee, we have an environmental committee. We're happy to see in this year's governor's budget more different revenue sources. So $300 million to fix 120 local bridges, $290 million for Michigan Water Plan, $40 million for high water levels and coastal erosion planning, and $15 million for emergency with dams having problems down in the southern part of the state. So again, glad to see the investment in infrastructure. We'll wait to see what the local revenue options are for roads. The governor talked about it. However, we have not seen any details on what that looks like yet. Human services programs, obviously another issue that counties deal with a lot. And especially now when we start talking about COVID and the impact on mental health, the stress on our mental health system has been, even more. So we support increased funding to our community mental health providers. We also, when we talk about health and human services programs, veterans, there's a veteran service fund out there that we want to make sure that COVID-related expenses are eligible under law. And also, we move the 17-year-olds out of the adult system into the juvenile system. We want to make sure those folks are continuing to be funded by the state and not up to the locals to cover those costs. Open Meetings Act, just wanted to provide you a brief update on where we're at with that. Of course, that's what those changes were allowing us to meet kind of the way we are now, where those options will be available until March 31st, 2021. And then after that date, it will either be required for a statewide emergency declaration or a local emergency declaration to continue to meet for no reason. So that's, and then that'll allow you to meet virtually until December 31st, 2021. So after that date, then there's certain justifications you would need to have to meet virtually, unless that law has changed. Right now, we are looking at possibly extending that March 31st date to June 30th. We'll see if we are able to get that extended, just due to the slow rollout of vaccines and the safety of our county commissioners and the general public. We want to make sure that every before we start bringing people back into rooms. So we'll keep you updated on that, but that's kind of where we're at now with open meeting. I mentioned our policy committees. So this is the list of all our policy committees. You're eligible to participate in any of them. All you have to do is fill out an application. We have moved to all virtual. We had virtual options before, but now we have moved to a permanent virtual option. So you don't have to come to Lansing anymore. You can just dial into any one of the use Zoom for our committee meetings. You can just dial in on these dates once you're approved for that committee. And they typically meet from September to June and then take the summer off. So if you are interested, please feel free to fill out a committee application at micounties.org. We do have a PAC. We use that PAC to support former county legislators. We now have 31 former county commissioners in the legislature. That number has gradually increased over the years. We're happy to see. Our job is now to remind those folks where they came from and not to forget what they had at county government. So that's what we use that PAC for. So hopefully you can find it to support the PAC. It's not a very big PAC, but we'll take any dollar. This is your MAC Government Affairs team. Dina Bosworth, our Director of Government Affairs, has been with us for about 10 years now. Megan Kites, our Government Affairs Associate. She handles Health and Human Services and Judiciary issues. And then Hannah Sweeney is our newest member. She's the Government Affairs Assistant. So she kind of helps coordinate schedules, helps with all our committees. She's probably a good person to start with if you do have any questions and you don't know where to go. If you have a question about what committee it would be or anything like that, she's probably the first person to start with, and she will point you in the right direction. So I mentioned our conferences earlier as educational opportunities. We have converted our legislative spring conference to a virtual conference due to the uncertainty with restrictions that are out there. Our board decided to move to a virtual option to just to be safe, better to be safe than sorry. And some of the venues were looking for a decision made sooner rather than later. We are still host our annual conference this September. Right now, we're looking at April 28th and 29th for our virtual conference. We're still putting together how that platform will look and what that'll look like. These are our communication tools that we have. Hopefully you're getting our weekly update as well. That's emailed every Friday, but we have a Facebook, Twitter account, Instagram. We do a newsletter every other month that we'll be converting back to a printed newsletter, probably midsummer. And we also do a podcast every week. So hopefully you can tune into our podcast. If you don't have time to read all the other publications we have out there, that's just a way you can kind of put it on in the background, kind of do something else while you listen to us talk back and forth about some of the issues that are going on. So with that, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I do want to answer any questions you have. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Commissioner.
Hi, Steve. This is Commissioner Deb Rushton. I'm going back to your page 12, the fiscal year 22 budget expectations. And I was wondering if you could explain where the governor seeks more local revenue options for roads. Are they looking for more local dollars for these road projects? Is that what you mean by that statement? Or could you clarify that for me?
I wish I could. That's literally taken from the governor State of the State address. And we don't have a lot of detail yet on what exactly that means. If I were to kind of make my best guess, I think it would be more local revenue options, raise more money locally for those local roads is how I would interpret that. But again, we don't have details yet. We're waiting to see what that exactly means. We've seen some local revenue options in the past we haven't been too excited about, like a local gas tax and things like that. We're not supportive of.
Well, thank you for that. In Leelanau County, our citizens supplement our county road commission, their snow plowing efforts over the winter. And I was just wondering if we're going to be looking to our citizens for more tax dollars on these roads locally.
Yeah, we'll definitely keep you updated as we get more visibility to that.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Any other questions?
Well, just
Go ahead.
maybe not pertinent, but also there's townships pay 50% of their secondary roads too, when it comes to it, if they want to the township. It's additional local revenue, is my point. This townships.
No other questions? Well, thank you very much, Steve. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate the support. Appreciate Leelanau County's support of MAC too. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
All right. Have a great day. All right. So then that would bring us then to the Leelanau County Road Commission. Thank you for being here. You can bring a chair forward. We don't have it there.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's nice to be here. I'm Garth Greenan. I am the chair of the Leelanau County Board of Road Commissioners. And I'm here with Brendan Mullane, who is the manager of the Road Commission. First of all, I'd like to thank the Board of Commissioners for providing us this opportunity to present the summary of what happened last year at the Road Commission and also talk a little bit about what we've got upcoming in 2021. But and Brendan's going to do that, and he has a PowerPoint presentation. Before that, I'd like to thank some of those that have really helped us out in providing our transportation system, our road system. First of all, we'd like to thank the citizens of Leelanau County that supplied the millage money that assists in us being able to plow the roads and maintain the roads. And we also have several other organizations that are partners with us on different types of projects, including the townships that contribute on certain projects, and also SADs, the Grand Traverse Band, the Conservation Resource Alliance, and the Fruit Belt Collaborative are all partners with us on certain projects. So we'd like to thank them certainly for all the assistance they give us. And with that, I'll turn it over to Brendan.
All right, thanks. As you said, thanks for having us. Just a quick little run through of our budget, some of our projects for the upcoming year, what we've done for last year. And, there we go. That'll work. Maybe. There we go. All right, as maybe you know, we have a 5-member road commission board. We increased to 5 in January of 19. You appointed Garth, bring us back up to 5 recently. So we're whole there. We have 2 main facilities. Sutton's Bay is our main office. Then we have another garage out in Maple City. Helps us manage the 2 halves of the county. 4 administrative staff, 3 supervisory. This number is actually changes on a per regular basis. We're actually closer to 24 equipment operators, 4 mechanics, and the seasonal, we have 3 on call. We haven't had to use them a whole lot this year, which is generally good news. I mean, we like to, we've been able to cover it pretty well ourselves with our full-time staff. And of course, that's our priority. What we really appreciate having a seasonal help too, because it helps us flex through the big storms and the night duty and stuff like that. So 598 miles of road. You can see a breakdown. I don't want to go through it for you, bore you with it, but we did a little research on February 5th, was a couple of Fridays ago. It was one of our first real major snow events. And so I ran some statistics on our trucks, and we actually had a couple of trucks not reporting quite properly, but even with that, they drove a total of 3,600 miles on that day, the 24-hour period. They go an average of 25 miles an hour. They don't plow any faster than 30. So 598 miles may not seem like a lot to get through in 8 hours or a day, but they really, they hit it, and they take their time and diligence, but it's quite an effort. I'd like to give them a lot of credit. These guys have been working very hard. Have you seen, we've gotten a lot of snow. We're pretty lucky for the first few months, but we're certainly paying for it now. And they're working around the clock, and they take pride in what they do. Our general infrastructure maintenance activities, I'm going to go through the list real quick, but snow removal has been down so far this year. I want to jinx it, but it's like I said, it's been an interesting thing though. Early on, we had a lot of freeze thaw. So we didn't have a lot of snow, but we ended up using more material because we constantly get that cycle of freeze thaw. So we've actually used more material than we have last year, even though you can see we've gotten less snow and it's only been February. But do the crack sealing, seal coat, fog sealing. We try and get at least 40 miles a year. We're one of the leading counties in performing the chip seal ourselves. We don't contract that out. And you see the good effects of that. The guys take a lot of pride in that work too. And industry-wide, you get a lot of credit for that. They do from the spring sweeping for all the winter sand removal, year-round pavement patching, maintaining ditches, culverts, overlays, reconstruction, improve the roads, shoulder maintenance, gravel, tree removal, center line painting, signs, guardrail, large animal recovery. They do quite a bit of things throughout the year. Fleet facility maintenance, a list of equipment here, quite a bit of different equipment for a lot of different things. One thing to point out is the plow trucks themselves. They used to have a separate truck for each operation. They had a plow truck, a sander, and then the push plow itself. And nowadays they have them all in one truck, and it really helps reduce the time it takes. The guys are basically a Swiss Army knife while driving down the road. There's a lot going on, but they're able to handle quite a bit too. It helps us be a lot more efficient. We generally try to replace 2 trucks a year, like a 12-year replacement cycle for the plow trucks. They're $250,000 a piece, and that's part of our asset management for that. That's our main item. Of course, we have a lot of others there. Administrative duties, obviously it's a lot more. The bulk of the work of the guys working in the field doing the plowing and the road maintenance, but we have quite a bit of office work that we get done. One of the probably most important things, as Garth mentioned, is we try and stretch the money as most as we can. A lot of share programs, match programs. Obviously, the millage is hugely helps. The Fruit Belt Collaborative, the township matching, all that as an effort to try and spread this money and make it go further. So we do quite a bit of effort to try and expand that. There's state matching. There's a lot there. Gosling Zubak is our engineering consultant. They're doing a great job helping us through our design. Here's our revenues for 2020, just over 8 million. And of course, the bulk of it is the MTF funds, which comes from the fuel tax, vehicle registration. There's a formula that the state divvies that up amongst the counties. But you can see, $5 million is a better portion of our budget, but there's a lot more to it. The millage is a humongous benefit. And then the other list of things is basically us trying to stretch that money out. So most of that comes from matching funds, MDOT, just under $1 million, township cost sharing, other revenues, forest funds, another actually flat grants, federal money. We had a pretty big dip in the MTF funds with the shutdown last year. It actually reset, and we had, I think it was a 0.5% more in 2020 than 2019. So it leveled out. It was much less than projected, but it did actually reset in the spring, which is promising. It was pretty scary there in the summer because the gas obviously usage is way down, but it's starting to reset, and so that of course is a big factor going through this year. Expenditures for 2020, kind of see a breakdown of local versus primary, capital outlay. Of course, that's the MDOT number. fringe benefits, the net equipment expense. Of course, that's the expense of the equipment. Expenditures, this is expenditure. That's why when we spend more than $40,000 on equipment, but that's the net cost. 2020 year, this map is obviously a little too small to show you guys, and I apologize for that, but we're gonna post this on our website, the maps too, so you get a better look if anybody's interested. If you'd like to see what was done last year, the next slide is gonna be next year's plan, our pacer rating. Just a quick overview of what was done in 2020. It said 39 miles of seal coat. I don't go through the list with you, but like I said, be available upon request too, or if you go to our website, we'll post it on there. Then same thing, we do a lot of winter maintenance, customary routine maintenance, emergency work. Lake levels are very high this year, so a lot of our roads, mostly MDOT roads, and some of ours were in trouble from the high water line, so quite a bit of erosion work there. When we do MDOT work, there's a 8.5% administration fee. So of course it's our crew's doing the work is a benefit. That's another thing that pays for the overhead throughout the year, stretches that money out. There's also 8.5% administration fees. So that MDOT work actually is another pretty important piece to trying to be as fiscally responsible as we can in making that money in the millage, of course, stretch that as far as we can. The 2021 project list, we're going to do the annual routine winter maintenance, of course. Another 40 miles of crack sealing. There's another stretch of 669, 641 from 72 to Lincoln Road. It's a federally funded project. And then Wedge, Bats, Plowman, Gilbert, Fritz Road, and there's some other township match projects. And this is a preliminary list, of course, and we'll be reaching out to the townships some more to see if they have projects that they would like. And a 50-50 match is a way, obviously, to stretch our money further, or the road commission's money, but then also give the township some say too. They may have a bigger priority than we do, and that helps them stretch their money out. The same thing here. I know you can't really see these maps, but the 2021 project map that we have, we'll be posting on the website. It's preliminary. Things can change, of course, but we've already bid the asphalt for these projects out. So we're planning on moving forward. Most of them will be done in the early spring. We're trying to get in and out before the summer population shows up as best we can. And then we'll be doing the seal coating ourselves throughout the summer. And then this is our 2020 pacer rating map. And like I said, if you pull this up, you can see a little bit better, but there is, it shows our area of, well, there's three, right? There's, it's important to say, I want to say that we don't always do the red roads first. There's, the worst roads, if you have a rating, it's rating from 1 to 10. If you have a road that's rated 2 or 3, it might be $100,000 or more to fix that road to get it up to a 7 or 8. But you have a 3 or a 4 road that's on its way to a 2. You need to spend the money there to keep that from going to 2 for roughly half the cost. And I just want to explain that about pacer rating and how we use that. And then that's pretty much it. Hopefully you have any questions, concerns. Yeah.
Commissioner Alvarez.
I think you addressed this, I'm not sure, but fuel sales had to be down a lot this year. Do you have the results of that yet for 2021?
Yes, they were way down in the summer, and then in the fall, they actually shot back up. And our MTF funds, that comes strictly from the fuel sales, fuel tax and registration. And we ended up on the year 0.5% more than 2019.
Wow.
But they had a 10% projection for 2020. So they balanced out. It kind of reset and got back to where it was the previous year, but it was down for what was expected or projected. So it was pretty scary early in summer. I mean, it was nosediving, and it did reset, which was comforting, but it still was down. You're absolutely right.
Good.
From expectations.
It must have been all those people coming up here.
Yeah, that's right. Right.
Commissioner Wesson.
Well, first, thanks for taking care of the roads as well as you do. They're wonderful. Question on the, we hear from internet service providers about the permitting process along roads, and wondering if you have talked about that, and if there's a way to streamline that some way, because it does appear to be an issue for getting broadband down our secondary roads.
Sure. And actually with the, the name of it's escaping me, but there's a bill that's protects the internet and phone providers from being overburdened with permitting. And even regardless of that, I mean, that's important. It's important to me. I think it's important. Yes. Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. So, I mean, we never want to be a burden to anybody. I mean, permitting is obviously, it's one of the things that I personally I'm new here, but in this county, but somewhat refreshing that we have the ability to be responsive. And I'd like to see we are very responsive. But the one thing we have to take care of is the road itself, right? That's in the right of way, and the maintenance and the safety of it is paramount. So if we're following the rules and we're following the things that make that okay, I'm all for it. We're very supportive. I mean, we meet, and I think if anybody, if you were to ask them, I'd commit to it. When we meet on site, usually within a few days, our commitment is 2 weeks to get a response, but we try to beat that by a week if possible. Working out the best possible way to do something or to allow something to be done in the right of way can get a little bit fuzzier. I mean, you have creeks, wetlands, you know, some roads are the natural beauty, which has a whole nother level of complexity to it. But I would say without it categorically, that's important. And I know that, we know that it's important to the citizens. And the only effort is to make sure that it's done properly in order to protect the road itself and safety, of course.
Thank you. Mr. Rush.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name and what your position is at the County Road Commission.
I'm Garth Greenan. I am Chair of the Leelanau County Board of Road Commissioners.
Okay, great. And you, sir?
Brendan Mullane, and I'm the Managing Director of the Road Commission.
Okay, thank you. One of my questions was, are you finding that the Road Commission is challenged with employees this year, or your mechanics or your drivers? Are you finding yourselves challenged in finding help? Or...
Sure. I started in August, and there was quite a bit of deficit. I don't say deficit, but we were short six or so people when I got here in August. A couple of things. There was contract negotiations were ongoing. That was settled in September, I believe. And before snow flew this year, we were up to full staff, which was the first time in 4 years. So we had a full staff of drivers and mechanics.
Do you have enough mechanics to maintain the vehicles?
Yes, they have been very busy lately, of course. But we do. We have 2 full-time mechanics at each garage. And then we also recently hired a new fleet manager who himself is a mechanic, and he helps when he can. We have another guy who was a seasonal mechanic and driver. So obviously in some of these weekends, and that's usually when it goes down, you know, the trucks they break down. And he'll come in a lot of times on weekends and help out our guys at the shop too. They're busy, they're very busy, but they've actually, I think, doing an excellent job of keeping up.
I know historically there's been some issues with having enough mechanics or whatever, getting those trucks, you know, in and out, back on the roads. You know, we have all this equipment, and you know, and I know when it's snowing out there and you've got a breakdown.
Yeah.
The mechanic is the most important guy.
Absolutely.
Get the truck in, get the truck out.
Yep.
Now, I don't know how you guys use salt and sand. And do you typically order your salt in once a year?
Well, so we'll usually do the salt and sand twice. Once it's called early salt. Depending on how the winter's going, we'll order the rest of it, or if we need more later on.
Any issues?
No, and that's actually been, like I said, we thought we ordered 1.5 years worth of sand, and we're more than third than we expected, but we still have plenty on site.
Okay, I just wondered if you were having any challenges with COVID
No,
or anything
luckily,
like that.
fortunately, we kind of we thought we over ordered and ended up using it, but we do a 5-to-1 sand and sand to salt on the local roads, and then the MDOT roads, it's 50-50 sand and salt, and that's their request. We do the 5-to-1. It's one of the same thing. We have good access to sand, and then we don't use as much salt. It's better for everything, basically.
Any issues with getting parts for the mechanics for the units with COVID? It's just.
It's been pretty good, honestly. I mean, it was a little, like I said, last year, of course, was a lot of issues with that, even equipment's a ways out, but fortunately, they have been doing and continue to do 2 of the plow trucks a year. And, well, to your other comment about the equipment, I think Saturday we actually had to use our last spare. You know, we were close. We were, no one was sitting down, basically.
I just wanted to make sure that, you know, that you guys were getting the things that you need to do what you need to do over there. And I concur with my fellow commissioners. You guys do a great job out there, and we appreciate all the time that you spend out there making sure our citizens can travel safely.
Absolutely, I appreciate that.
And no loaning our equipment to southern states.
Some states, they need it.
Brandon, could you stop screen sharing so people?
Well, I was gonna ask Commissioner Sutis Little, did you have any questions?
So people can watch and see.
Yeah. Hearing none, but, I had a couple of questions. Well, one was that, I see that GM is planning on changing all their cars out to electric by 2035. You know, so we're gonna have to figure out a different means of funding roads if that's gonna happen. You know, so I guess that's something, I don't know if they talk about or concerned, because it seems to be the trend, though. It seems like the electric companies aren't gonna be able to handle it, so I don't know how we're gonna do this, you know? Then the other thing is, you showed this huge culvert going through somebody's lawn. You know, what does that have to do with roads?
That's an excellent question. It's a very good question. And it matters, because actually, and I said in there about culvert replacement, and I know that can be a touchy thing sometimes. It's actually really important, and I appreciate you asking that, is very explicit. The MTF funds in our general goals ourselves, when it's draining the roadway, or it's a road ditch and it's a cross culvert, getting the ditch from one side of the road to the other, that's ours. We maintain that. That's part of our, you know, our maintenance of the road itself. And that particular one, that culvert had failed, and the DQ says if you replace it, you have to replace a bigger one based on the bank width. So that was a pretty big one. But there are a lot of situations out there where if it's a creek crossing maybe, and the culvert's that big because it's draining a wetland or a creek or something outside of the right of way, and we explicitly cannot use MTF funds for that. And we really shouldn't either. I mean, that's, you know, our focus is the road maintenance itself. Of course, if there's a ditch line that's draining our road, we do own those, or responsible for those drainage structures. But it's an important, you know, distinction between the two.
So that, could you know, because it looks like you're going across private property with this culvert, you know, which is huge. And is to get to the lake or something with the water from the other side of the road? Is that what the purpose was?
Yeah, that particular one is replacing the existing, so there was already an easement there on that property, and they were upsizing. That actually, I believe it was Delzell, don't quote me on that. Not Delzell, I'm sorry. It was over by Cherry Bend. And they had a pretty big flooding issue in the spring. With all the rain and massive flooding, so they actually upsized that to relieve, because the road was flooding out as well.
I might add too, that one of the things with our partners, like the CRA and the Grand Traverse Band and the Fruit Belt Collaboration, is we work with them on environmental issues. So if we have a situation that is environmentally sensitive crossing, quite often we'll try to work with them on that.
Well, and then the other thing is that on 633, where it comes into Sutton's Bay, the buses are running down that all the time. They're getting damaged. I mean, how come that road doesn't get fixed? I mean, it's been like this for a long time.
Sure. The road commission actually stops at Eckerly, North of Elm Street and Eckerly is Sutton's Bay, the village itself. So that's not our county road commission stretch of road.
Okay, so would that have to be a 50-50 project with the village of Sutton's Bay?
And the village has plans to do the northern part, and they're looking for funding to do that. The culvert you're talking about is the Leo Creek, just north of Elm Street. So it's not our jurisdiction, but we've actually been working with them because we do a lot more of that fund sharing. We've reached out to the CRA with them and trying to help find more funding because there is some MDOT funding that they're applying for that. There's a lot of sources out there. Like I said, that's a great crossing itself. There's a lot of other avenues for grant money that they are going after. I've been talking with Sutton's Bay probably 3 or 4
But
times.
that's not a 50-50 issue then?
And it's not a road commission road at all.
Okay.
So we wouldn't do any funding on that whatsoever because
I see.
they do get MTF funds for their roadway. It's the village of Sutton's Bay. So same thing, we couldn't use the MTF funds because we're not certifying because the village is not the county road commission.
Commissioner Soderstrom.
Yes, I didn't have a question, but I do have a comment. And that is to extend my appreciation to Brendan Muldoon and his staff. I had a pleasure of working with Brendan when he first came, and he's helped out on a couple of issues that have arisen with residents in my district. So congratulations again on your position. Now it's about a year old, but also congratulations to you and your staff on the fine work that you're doing.
Appreciate that. I will definitely pass that on. Thank you.
Mr. Ryan.
Likewise, I don't have a question for you, but I just want to thank you for everything you do. I know this time of the year is your tough time. And I know you guys don't get the appreciation like you should. And I want to thank you for that. In the summertime, I watched you. You guys are very proactive of trying to fix stuff before it becomes something major, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you. I appreciate the comment.
I am just really happy that every time it snows, I can go out and drive and I'll be safe. So thank you. And you did a wonderful job on the 669 culvert.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much. We appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so then we move on to our action items. Yes, we have, first we have the resolution for the bond.
Yeah, let me give a brief update. I believe Mr. John is on the telephone, correct, John?
Yes, I'm on here.
All right, let me just give a brief update. Thank you, John, for joining us this evening and for giving up your evening. Just a brief.
It's kind of like refinancing your house because interest rates are a lot lower than they were in the last few years. So the interest rate on this particular bond issue will only be 1.38%. And for a bond issue which will run out about 8 years, that's a remarkably low rate. I can tell you, I've been doing this stuff for a long, long time, and I've never seen a rate quite that low. And by doing the refinancing, the net estimate in savings is somewhat over $90,000, which is certainly a good percentage. So we would recommend approval of the bond resolution. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Let me just give a background on John. John is with Clark Hill. When Mr. Gallagher, our county treasurer, and I looked at this last fall, we realized the bonds could be refinanced this year. And so we looked at options, and we worked with Huntington Bank. They were here last Tuesday giving you the overview. That rate is a great rate. It is locked in. Part of that, we need a legal bond counsel to help us with that. Coastal Oaker does not do bond financing. So Mr. Gallagher has a long-standing relationship with Clark Hill. They're recognized statewide for doing this type of work. John felt very comfortable with them. And last week, you heard a presentation from our bankers about the process and the finances and so forth. To get the process started, you need to pass a resolution. So Mr. John Axe is on here from Clark Hill. They drafted the resolution. You have it. It was emailed to you a couple of days ago. This will start the legal process to refinance the bond. But John is correct. My first bond I refinanced was 20-some years ago, and it was nowhere near this interest rate. I've never seen a bond this rate, this low, so it's a good time to do that. It does save us some finances. We talked about the options last week, so I won't go into that. But I think we do have a unique opportunity to save some tax dollars here to the county. And so what you have is I think a 12-page document that John will be glad to walk you through. I asked him not to walk through it page by page unless you really want to go through it. I think all of you hopefully have reviewed it. It's standard language.
It is, that's right.
Yeah, and I feel very comfortable going forward. And Mr. Gallagher was not able to join us today, but he's the one that selected this law firm to work through us. I'll just leave it at that, see if you have any questions for either John or myself.
I have a question for clerk. Michelle, will this be bond resolution number 21 dash?
We will assign it a number, but I've got to be careful because I think that you've got a resolution here that's going to jump in my number, so I'll sign it after the meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, you can put your own number on the resolution. That we don't prepare that part. So
Okay,
that's fine.
so I'll take a stab at it. I would move that, I would move to recommend the bond resolution number as stated. Bonds not to exceed $2,650,000 for Leelanau County for capital improvement refunding bond series 2021 as presented.
I'll second.
Any questions? Do we have our legal counsel look at this or?
No, they do not. Our legal counsel, Coastal does not do bond refinancing.
No, this gentleman is here,
These are
Clark Hill,
represented,
this
yes.
is a legal.
Yes.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Yes,
that-
yes.
And they have
So
drafted this and reviewed it.
Yes, it came from their league, yes.
Right.
John and his staff drafted this, and they are representing Leelanau County's interest.
Right.
So this is not coming from the bank, this is coming from our
Okay.
attorney. So it has been reviewed, but it's not Coast Oker because they do not do bond financing.
So,
Yes.
yeah, thank you. So I guess my first question would be, is the motion complete enough? Is it inclusive enough? And we don't have, the resolution doesn't have an end date, but I believe it's going to be 2027.
Yeah.
We're going on the assumption that we're.
Yeah, if you look at it, it says whereas it's 2022 through 2027.
Yeah, okay.
Right.
If you look
Exactly.
at page 2, it does have the payment schedule on there.
Yeah, it says as presented, but we didn't, the numbers aren't filled in, but.
If you look at it, it does have a specific year by year.
Okay.
Yeah, this authorizes you to issue a maximum number of bonds, and we think it'll be a little less than that. I think we think it'll be about what's indicated in there. And we do need a motion and a second, and then a roll call vote.
Yeah. And I think we're ready now for the roll call vote.
Commissioner Lautner,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins,
Yes.
Commissioner Rushton,
Yes,
Commissioner Sudaswittle,
Yes,
Commissioner Wessel,
Yes.
Commissioner Allgaier,
yes.
Chairman Bonnie,
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, John, and we will work
Thank
with
you
Chairman
very
Bonner
much.
to
I appreciate your assistance. Thanks a lot. Good to work with you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.
So then that would bring us to number 1, the sheriff's office.
If I may, just one quick question. I just wanted to thank staff, John, Michelle, Chet, whoever, Treasurer John Gallagher, I meant, and of course, gentleman John who assisted us just now. But thank you for bringing this to us and allowing us to save over $90,000 for the county. It's great.
Anyone else? Commissioner Rush.
I was going to move to allow the sheriff's office to apply for the 2021 Marine Safety Grant through the Michigan Department of Natural Resources to cover a percentage of the cost to run the Leelanau County Marine Safety Program.
Or
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. The motion passes 7-0. That brings us then to the government center.
Yeah, last week you heard a report from Mr. Lebo about the challenges we're having with the entrance of the building. He gave a proposal not to exceed $5,000 for which we'll call phase one, because we don't know what he'll find once he gets in there. Our legal counsel is drafting up the legal contract. We don't have it yet because it's been a week, but we'd like to start with the work. Like I said, the contract will be drawn up by legal counsel. So we're recommending that you approve it pending official approval from legal counsel. And you have a copy of the EDS here in front of you.
We do have a motion here that was written down. Commissioner West.
Yes, I move that the Board of Commissioners approve an agreement between Leelanau County and Lebo Construction to explore and potentially replace deteriorated materials within the function on the front of the government center entrance at a cost not to exceed $5,000, pending council review and approval. Funds to come from Fund 470.801.000.
Second.
Commissioner Locke.
I apologize, I don't have the page number or the vendor in front of me, but in our bills for this month, we had gutter.
Yes,
That sounded like the same area.
yes, that was part of the repair system.
Okay, so he's already done that, or was
Oh, a
that
different
done?
company has done that.
Oh, okay, we had already done that, and
Yes.
now Lebo's going
Yes.
deeper. Yeah, okay, all right, thank you. I thought that was an awful fast turnaround from
Yeah, no, that was a separate.
last week.
When you went to do that, we all agreed that needed to be done.
Okay.
Was that Rainbow Gutter or something? Whoever put them up?
Yeah, the same, Michigan, I'm not sure, it's the same.
Yeah, I don't remember the vendor, but I just saw it in the bills.
It's the same vendor that did when we had the problem on this side of the water,
Okay.
it's the same. And that did, I think, solve the problem from a couple years ago.
Okay, thank you.
So, all right, so all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. That brings us then to the committee of the whole goals recommendation. Commissioner Walker.
I would move the County Board of Commissioners recommend the goals for 2021, processing goal number 1 to be the COVID-19 relief. Goal number 2 to include broadband, cell first service, and affordable housing. And goal number 3 to be the Little Traverse Lake Septic Pilot Program.
Or
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. So then that would then bring us to number 5. Commissioner Howard.
I make a motion to the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners that the Leelanau County Equalization Department, together with Community Resources, is available to continue work in partnership with the Benzie Leelanau District Health Department to add more existing and or easily available environmental mapping layers to the Little Traverse Lake Pilot Mapping Project. Additional mapping layers may include information such as ground and surface water flow direction and groundwater elevation.
support.
Any questions about this? Or any statements? Commissioner Walker.
Just one. I just personally feel like maybe this motion is kind of premature. I think we're going to learn a lot more as we go with our pilot program. So I won't be supporting this motion today. I just think it's ahead of the curve.
Commissioner Alcorn.
Actually, the motion is supporting the work that you talk about we should do. So if you are saying continue with this pilot and we don't need a motion, it's just a done deal, then I'm fine.
Would it be helpful if I gave my update now from Rob and Eric?
We want to do this first, though.
Because that will give you the information that you.
I know, that's the problem. She wanted to switch them around and we're waiting for the update. So I would say we need to get the update before but we have a motion on the table, we have to discuss it and decide. So I was hoping we'd have the update, know what they're gonna do, what they can do before we start moving forward. Commissioner Rush.
Yeah, I think it's the cart before the horse. I'm looking at this letter, a public comment letter. And this is all new information to me. It looks like there's a lot more information out there and available to us. And this motion may be a little bit premature because that information may already be available. I don't know, I haven't had time to really look through it.
Yeah.
Commissioner Robbins.
I agree. It seems like every day I'm getting more and more information and I'm looking for it. I've got people calling me from the area, from your area, Traverse Lake. I'm getting more and more reports, and I didn't like what happened last week in the meeting with you. There's so much hidden information that you had that you didn't share with us. And I can go on, but I don't want to right now. I think we need to just step back right now. We gotta come up with a better plan. And that's where I'm at right now, that there's just too many unknowns right now. And the pile just gets deeper and deeper every day.
Commissioner Ellis.
You know what, I'm fine. Part of the reason I asked to switch this is because that's what we did last week. But if you want to hear, the motion is just to support the work that's being done. If you want to hear what they've done so far, I can wait. And then I just want to support the work they're doing. As far as, I've been talking to people with the association. What they don't understand is this is the health department's septic records. They're being overlaid on a map. We're just developing parameters based on age of septics, groundwater flow, how they're routed, are they on the map, how old are they? And looking at parameters that would indicate that there could be a problem. Then you can do testing. So it's not about what's happened 5 years ago. It's about, we've got these wonderful septic records. How can we use them to develop markers and parameters to inform our public? So that's what it is. So it's frankly not about old information. It's developing parameters and markers. So we just want to support the work that the health department's doing and give them the tools they need. But if you want me to withdraw so you can hear from this and then I'll resubmit the motion so you understand it better, I'd be glad to do that.
Are you saying you want to withdraw that motion now?
If that would help.
It's up to you. I mean, and then, but it would have to be okay with the second as well. Fine with me.
Okay, and then I want to do it again when he's done.
Okay, so that motion is withdrawn. So that now we'll go to the update.
All right, well, thank you. Since our meeting last Tuesday, I had 2 conference calls with Rob Herman and Eric Johnson. The first one is, and this is not my field of expertise, so I asked Eric first to develop what would help him. What can we do to help him? And what would be beneficial, because he's been involved with the discussions. He knows that time is limited for Rob. He has a full-time job. So he came up with several things, and then I asked Rob, okay, can we really help him with this, and what are time constraints at any cost? So the first thing that Eric said would be helpful is just like the map that Rob did with the septic system in terms of ages of the septic systems. So it would be very helpful if we come up with a map with the drinking well and do the same thing. go through that same area and identify the age of all the drinking wells in that same area as the septic system. So Eric said that'd be helpful for him. He could provide the data and so forth to Rob. Rob's comment, yes, said this is a very realistic project and it would only take him a few hours to put it together. And he said he could do that probably in time for our March meeting.
So to recap, he would overlay the map to find out where the drinking water.
The age of the wells.
The age of the
Yeah,
wells.
as you remember last
He's got
week-
records of the wells.
Yeah, as you remember last week, Rob gave you a map by decades, that you could look at a map and say, this septic system was installed in 1979, this one in the 80s, 90s, and so forth. Mr. Johnson would be very helpful if you get the same data for the drinking wells. Rob said he could do that fairly easy in terms of the decade again. So a similar map, but only focusing on the drinking wells. So he said he could do that, very little cost and not time consuming. Could have it back to you for the March meeting. So that's number one. Okay. Number two, what Rob, or what Eric said, is take all the information that's in the digital files of the wells and septic systems and put them in the map. That's all the detailed information on each of the wells, each one of the septic systems. Rob said that would be very time consuming for him to do that. And that'd be a lot of work outside of his normal duties and responsibilities. So unless the board wishes to make that a priority, Rob would not go forward unless the board authorizes that, because that would take probably a week of his time in addition to his other duties and responsibilities. And that is really more of a technical, we could hire someone, or the health department could hire someone, or they could do an internship and so forth. But that was outside of what Rob felt his duties were and so forth. That's more of a technical data research project. So Rob actually originally in his email put about 32 hours, but the more he thought about it, he actually thought that'd be a little more than that. He estimated at first about 15 minutes per record, but he said it'd be 15 to 30 minutes per each file. So that would be at least 1 week of work, if not more.
64.
Yeah, so unless the board makes this a priority, we will not go forward with that. To the groundwater flow direction map, which we talked about at, Rob does not have the ability or the technical skills to do that. They would have to be outsourced. So in a nutshell, he can do fairly easy, probably by the March meeting, a map which the drinking wells age in that same zone. So same map as he did last week with the septic systems, but with the drinking wells by decade, he can do that. The other two would not be feasible unless it's a board priority. Obviously, number two, in terms of the digital things, that could have occur, but from a financial standpoint, that's, I think, above what, or below what Rob is capable of doing it. If we were to do that, Rob felt more comfortable, and Eric did too, that's more of a technical thing, we can outsource that to someone that has the technical expertise to do that. To do the groundwater flow directional map, would need an outside consultant with that expertise to do that. So in a nutshell, that's what Eric, Rob, and I discussed last week.
Commissioner Sutis.
Just a question to Chet. When you were talking about the detailed information on the wells from the health department, what is that detailed information? Is it name? Is it location? What is it?
I think it varies from each record. They have a record on each well. Some are more detailed than others.
But do you have any of the type of?
I do not personally know that.
I'm sorry.
I personally do not know what's on those records.
Okay.
But both Rob and Eric agree it'd be great information.
Right.
That's someone that could be farmed out or outsourced to someone with the technical skills versus what Rob is doing.
I was just wondering whether the information, the detailed information of that nature, if it was more, if it would be worth putting it in. You know, it may not be something, and obviously it's time consuming. They decided not to do it based on that, but it may also not be information that would be useful in terms of analysis. That's all I was asking.
Eric thought it'd be helpful and useful, but at what level, I don't want to speak on his behalf.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Allen.
As far as the 32 plus hours, part of the reason the motion said outside resources or community resources is we can get people to help with that. So that's just like people helped with the septic records digitization. We could get the same kind of people to help with that. And so that's not a problem. My goal is to support the health department as much as we possibly can, because they have an opportunity to develop some parameters with new tools that are out there. As far as the groundwater flow, that information is extremely helpful. Our ArcGIS system it has, boy, I wish I had the right nomenclature for this. Basically, there's an extension that can be downloaded for free to do the groundwater flow mapping. And there is someone who can do that for $300 to $500, and he'll be glad we'll have a submission for that at the March meeting. So that's fairly inexpensive, and it's extremely helpful information. If we're going to support the health department to do a complete job with this, or do the best pilot study that we can do given the technologies we have for very little cost, we can develop some very important parameters. Now, what we do with those, if nothing else, it's an extremely important service to our citizens and information for our citizens to support all of us having clean drinking water.
Commissioner Rushton.
I really appreciate that Rob is willing to overlay the map simply as he did with the septic overlay, where we have the timelines. So I would not be opposed to that. As far as utilizing his services for the rest, I think that's not what he was hired to do. So I think it would be unfair of us as commissioners to ask or request that he move forward with that. I'm sure his director of their operations would not be happy with him missing a week's work. The other issue is all of this other information, and you know, we're looking at costs here, and my question is, one, where's the money coming from, and whose budget is it coming out of? Is it coming out of our budget? Is it coming out of the health department's budget? And have we explored the opportunities that might be out there from the Lake Association? I believe this letter came from the Lake Association. It sounds to me as if they've done quite a bit of work on that lake. And I think it would behoove us to find out, in fact, what else you're planning to do on that lake.
Can I answer that question?
Commissioner Robbins.
Okay.
I think I can answer it. Been on the phone with most of the day. The Lake Association was really surprised when they knew something was going in their backyard, or did know something was going in their backyard until they read it last week in the Leelanau Enterprise. And they wanted to know what the heck's going on here. No one's talked to them. I mean, they, 80% of the lake is part of their membership. I learned today that Commissioner Allgaier, you and your husband aren't even part of the association, and you haven't talked to anybody until after February 9th, after the meeting. So,
That's not true.
and they wanted data from you, from what you and your husband's been doing. You won't share it with them. You go on their website. They got a beautiful website. I mean, you look at all the studies that they've been doing on that lake, and it's unbelievable. And I suggest that all you commissioners go on that tonight. I mean, last year they budgeted 35,000 for studies. They got another 30,000 scheduled for this year. They're doing the infrared as soon as they can get the infrared. I mean, they're doing study after study. They're checking their water all the time. They're checking the water level. There's beaver dams. There's a lot of issues in here. We're all for clean water. We're for the septics. But I think we forgot one thing, and we owe an apology to the Lake Association that we did not contact them and see what they want. We just jumped right into it. And they're willing to work with us. They want a subcommittee. They want to be involved. But they've been doing a lot of stuff. They're already ahead of what we're doing. And they would like the information on the data, on the mapping. They would appreciate that, but they want to work with us. So I think, you know, we got a good thing going here, but I think we're ahead of where we should be, and we need to back up. And we need to include the association and the township. From what I've been told, they would want to be involved in this too. It's their ordinance. And so I think we just need to, you know, it's one of our goals and we'll work on it, but we need to slow down here and make sure everybody's involved who should be involved and not just us. I mean, this is, you know, I'm sorry to say this, but it's not, you know, this is turning into a personal agenda from what I see from where I'm sitting. And we need to make it a goal and work as a team with the township, with the Lake Association, and us as a board to move forward with this, to get the right results.
Mr. Almore.
So I spoke with Tim Stein, and this does not affect their ordinance, and he's all for it. We've been working with the head of water quality for the association for a long time. Somehow that didn't get to the rest of the association, but I thought working with the person who's the head of the water quality committee was the appropriate thing to do because that's her bailiwick. I've been talking to other people in the association. I did call Kristen, the vice president, I don't know, 2 or 3 days ago, but, and I need to talk to them some more. This is a health department study based on their septic records. It's about what we can pick up from their septic records and new technology that's available now that that nobody's had. Nobody's done groundwater flow mapping. So it's offering them more information. And we've been a member of the association for years. There's some issues this year, so we're not a member this year. But we're talking apples and oranges, and I will continue to talk to them to try to help them to understand that. They have paid for 8 sites to be tested with qPCR this summer. After the health department is allowed to develop these parameters, this is just allowing the health department to develop parameters. That's all it is. We'll be glad to say, do you want to use these parameters to choose your 8 sites? Leelanau Clean Water is willing to pay for more testing sites based on the parameters. And then what the qPCR testing will allow is, okay, is it real? Is this a parameter that's real? Or is it indicating nothing? So we'll have better data. And I am glad I was talking to people all day long myself and trying to help them understand that we have been talking with the head of their water quality. But this is a health department study based on the septic records that we now have more access to than we've ever had before. And we just want to help them, support them.
But we need
Develop this
to have a
information.
motion on the table here. We're just having a discussion about this, but if we're gonna Otherwise, we can talk all night, but we don't even know what we're really talking about other than the information you got. I mean, are we gonna, yes, Commissioner Wessel?
Thanks. I wanted to respond. I haven't been able to respond to
Right.
what Chet shared with us, and I think that's good. I'm glad we're getting.
Okay.
I'm glad we're updating the records, and I think that'll be helpful. And whether we do a pilot or not with Little Traverse Lake, I'm concerned that we don't know where all our septic systems are. We don't know if we have a problem, and we don't have a plan to inspect. And we haven't been moving that fast on that issue because this is year 22, I think, for that discussion. But I think one of the reasons we started talking about a pilot was we want to know if we had a problem. And I don't know what the best way to find out if we've got a problem or not, but at some point, we need to find out where the septic systems are that have never been inspected and where the septic systems are that were built before 1976 or whatever the date was. And then do some testing to see if we have a problem. That's my interest.
I suggest how we could potentially move forward. So I've told Mr. Johnson and Rob that we'd have a follow-up call after this meeting. But if we go back to November, where we are now is, I think, further than we all thought in terms of the maps. That was a very positive accomplishment at no cost to the county. So when Mr. Johnson said he identified 3 main goals that really helped him. One is the drinking water map. And I think all of you are in favor to go forward with that. Rob said he can do that fairly easy, not time consuming. We can probably report back to you in March with that. So I think everyone's in agreement to go forward with that. The other 2 things that Mr. Johnson requested, the detail of the septic map and ground flow. I asked Mr. Johnson if he could put together a proposal, because this really is a health department request. And I asked him if he could, depending on this discussion go, I'm guessing in March, he'd be willing to come up with a proposal to address these issues. Just like a couple years ago, you asked the health department to come up with a plan to digitize those records. They came up with the plans, you funded it. You didn't actually do it. You gave them the funds to do it. If Mr. Johnson thinks this is a priority, if the health department thinks it's a priority, they can come up with a proposal, bring it back probably at the March meeting. That way you can actually look at it and see if you want to go forward or not. I think we're all in agreement that the original map that Rob did was very helpful. The map he did on the pilot for Little Traverse has been very beneficial. And he's willing to do the same thing on the well system. And so that we can have done by March. And the other 2, if Mr. Johnson thinks these are a priority, he can come up with a plan how to accomplish them and then take it to either his board or this board and see if there's funding or support to go forward or not.
Commissioner Law.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, in light of, I have no problem if Rob has time within his duties to map the wells. I have absolutely no problem with that. That, once again, it's a health department issue. So we all, obviously all of us want clean water in Leelanau, and we always have. Therefore, we have funded many entities for water quality testing all these years, and we supported them. And the results have been back that the water's been getting cleaner all the time. Those have been the reports back to us. Now, there is new data, I get all that. There again, that falls within the health department. We want to do what we can to use our resources to support the health department to do this. What alarms me is, and I had a few phone calls today too, for all the years we've talked about this, and for all the mention of this at this table, even since the beginning of the year, is that we had no idea all this data was out there. And Gwen, you say we want, and I'm not even sure who you mean we, because from what I heard is you're not involved in all of the information that's been getting captured out there that they have in this website that Commissioner Robbins mentioned. It's incredible. So I think we do owe them an apology because I think we kind of stepped on their toes because that information was not brought forward to us. And we can't operate that way. The rest of this is health department. Health department has a budget. If they want to, if they think these other issues are important, other than what we are trying to do, to identify, get an idea of what kind of a situation we might have around one of our lakes, then the health department can do that. They have a budget. That would fall within there. And if we've heard that once in the last week or so, we've heard it hundreds of times, that what are we doing looking at health department issues? That's health department. So we can, as we move forward, we've been trying to aid them, we've been trying to give them resources, etc. But this did not come from the health department. And it did not come from the Lake Association. So I guess that's my point, is I think this goes beyond the scope of what we're trying to do. It may seem like baby steps, but it's huge because I think that data is going to be out there. We just got other information I haven't even been all the way through about how many townships now already have septic ordinances in our county, and they're going to start capturing those numbers. As I said, it may take a little bit of time, but I think we have to be patient with it. And so that's my comment. I won't be supporting this motion if it's made tonight or in March.
Well, I mean, I do know that Bingham, I don't know if I said this before, but Bingham Township has just passed an ordinance. When I talked to them, they were not interested in Dr. County, but they actually have passed a septic ordinance. And theirs has to do with the rentals. If anyone's gonna do weekly or daily rentals, they will have to have their septics inspected. And it'll have to be approved, and that will tell them how many people can be allowed in that residence. So that's, that's something that maybe the townships want to look at with their ordinances, because in some of these rentals, they're just a standard house, but they're allowing 8 adults to be in there, constantly. So I mean, the townships are looking at the issues, and and we've discussed this enough. I think that we've learned that if they want them, they can do them, and they will. For me, if we want to help them with the mapping and the data, then let's do that. Because to me, that was what I thought the pilot program was. When Commissioner Ansorgi said, the idea was for preventative. It wasn't to go into start demanding things from people, so that they have the information and that we can provide at a minimal cost. Because if this pilot grows, remember, we're looking at doing this for the entire county then. We can't just say we have to do it for Little Traverse Lake and it's only this much. What we're looking at is doing it for the entire county, and how far do we want to go for the entire county? If we can do it reasonably and in-house, then I think that's the way to approach it. But if we have to start expanding it to outside sources, and we're gonna do the whole county this way, I mean, I think that's beyond our scope, and I don't think that's where this pilot program wants to go. I think we need to look at what we can do reasonably well, and not specifically for Little Traverse Lake and what they need. It's what we can do for any lake, any creek, any river that's here in the county. And that's what we have to look at this pilot program about, I believe. Commissioner Allen.
I agree. I think what we can do here, because it's a small, I didn't choose Little Traverse Lake, Chet and Rob and Eric did, and I think it's because it's small, so it was doable. I think the beauty is just that, just develop parameters. And then we can't afford to do the whole county this way. But it sure would be helpful if we have found that when this situation exists, and this situation exists, and this situation exists, there are an awful lot of people who will say, wow, I should have my septic checked. That's just important information. The homeowner can't do this, doesn't have access to this. We can provide that, support the health department in providing that. And that's just another tool we can offer our people. But of course, we can't afford to do that. That's why we're doing this little tiny link. Because we can't afford to do the whole county.
Then we shouldn't be doing it. If we can't do it for the whole county, we shouldn't do it for one lake.
No, the parameters apply to everybody. You
All
develop
right,
tools and then you
let's
apply
move
them.
on to the next subject, all right? So we'll move to senior services here.
Mr. Chairman?
Well, can I clarify?
Yes, Commissioner Sotomayor.
I think we're getting caught up here in semantics a little bit, and what's gotten lost is, I think what we were trying to define is what's important, what information, or to use Commissioner Algar's word, what parameters, what information would be useful to people in determining whether or not their well and their drinking water is safe. And I think that's all that I hear Commissioner Algar trying to say. So I know we're at a point where we're going to move on, but I just wanted to clarify. I think we've gotten way off track with what was being assumed that she was trying to do here. So just let's move on then and just recognize that that's not, what she was trying to do is help us define for all the counties, picking just this one example of what might be useful information for people as they sort through this issue, be it at the township level or the individual level.
Thank you.
If at any time anyone has a concern about their well, they can get it inspected by the health department. Same with their septic. They're free to do that.
We need to move on to
Thank you.
something else. All
Agreed.
right, we'll move to senior services, the Area Agency on Aging. Commissioner Wessel.
Yes, I move to allow an agreement with the Area Agency on Aging of Northwest Michigan with senior services to provide MIPPA beneficiary outreach and assistance service for seniors. Contract to begin September 1, 2020 and continue through September 30, 2021.
Support.
All those in favor, please raise their hand. All those opposed, the same sign.
I'm sorry, I would have raised my hand, yes. I was
Okay,
reading
so
something.
the vote is 7-0, I believe.
Sorry, I was reading.
All right, so then the number 7, the dam authority recommendation. Commissioner Lawton.
I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners waive its bid policy on bid requirements and approve a contract between Leelanau County and Mashton Engineering Incorporated for engineering services at the Leland Dam at a cost not to exceed $3,100 and funds to come from 805.
Support.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 6-1.
No, it's not, I'm sorry, I'm not being good, I'm distracted.
She's trying to follow her minutes on there.
I know I am, and I'm gonna
So
stop.
you voted in favor of it?
Yes,
Okay,
I
I'm
will stop
sorry.
trying to find it.
I gave you a hard copy.
7-1, or I mean 7-0.
Right here.
All right, then we'll move on to number 8.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve an agreement with Tyler Technologies to upload historical documents into Register of Deeds software for permanent storage. Pending council review, unless that's already.
That is happening.
Has that been completed? Okay, so we'll omit pending council review and approval. Cost not to exceed $3,500, with those funds to come from the automation fund contingency 256, 6 zeros thereafter, 891,000.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign.
Can I just help
Yes.
her for a
Go
second?
ahead.
So she can.
Motion
see
passes 7-0.
This is her printout. Yeah, these are the executive, and this is what they're working on. So if you follow and.
Are we waiting a minute?
Agenda, he's in.
Yes, she has to take minutes. Wait a minute.
So I think you probably have the page too. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Wessel.
I move to approve the planning department request to fill the vacant secretary position.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Commissioner Lautner?
I would move that Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the agreement between Leelanau County and the state of Michigan for the 2021 aerial imagery be placed on the, well, to approve the imagery.
Support.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. All right, number 10, information technology. Commissioner Rushton?
I would move to waive the Commissioner's Board policy on the bid requirement and approve the quote from Nutley Business Solutions for the purchase of a Sharp MX 2651 copier for the Sheriff's Office, Jail Division, in an amount not to exceed $3,094. Funds to come from the duplicating fund 645.
Support.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Brings us to approval of the 20 board rules and order and procedures. Commissioner Westman?
I had proposed, and we brought it forward to this week's meeting, that we modify the Article 6, Section D, number 1, 2, order of business to include a very quick and dirty meeting evaluation at the end of the meeting. I think it's important that we end our meeting with reaffirming that we spent our time wisely and we've listened to everybody, and that our decisions were made with input from everybody and collectively, and that we used our time effectively. So I would like to move that we approve the rules with that addition.
Second.
Any comments? Commissioner Rushton?
I will not be supporting this today. I looked at these and I thought through each one of these individually. We spent our time on the most important governance topics. Well, we all have a say in our agenda at the beginning of each meeting. And the word most important is subjective. What's important to you may not be important to me. And I believe that when we approve our agenda, we have that conversation. And we have a consensus and move forward with our agenda. We encourage the diversity of viewpoints. Each one of us has a very different viewpoint, and we as a board, as a whole, we allow 2 public comments, we take letters from our community, and we have presentations on occasions that come here and talk to us as a board. So I think this request is redundant. And as far as making our decisions collectively, what's the purpose of having debate on this board? We're here to debate, are we not? We come to this board with different ideas or different agendas, and our job is to debate, share the ideas with one another, and come to some sort of a consensus. And the consensus is the vote, whether it's a 7-0, a 6-1, or whatever. So let's face it, I'm never going to agree with you 100%, and you are never going to agree with me 100%. So decisions collectively, I think that goes against what we as commissioners have been assigned to do by our constituents. We come here as independents, independent thinkers, and I personally think that that request to make decisions collectively does not serve our constituents well, and it's an injustice to our citizens. And as far as the board using its time efficiently or effectively, We try to do that at each meeting. We get a little off kilter sometimes, but I think we've got a pretty good board chairman that reins us all in at one time or another, me especially, because I get long-winded as I am now. I will relinquish the floor. I think this information that has been provided, you may have a good goodwill behind this. However, I do not support any of the points. I think, I guess this last question, number 5, what is the most important thing this board could do to improve our function as a board? I think we all ask ourselves that every week. What can we do better? What can we as a commissioner do better to serve the people that we represent? And I will now relinquish the floor.
Commissioner West.
I don't disagree with a lot that Commissioner Rushton has said, which is why I think it's important that we ask these questions. All boards should try to work collectively. That means that we listen as well as speak. It means we don't have our mind made up all the time before we come to the meeting, but we look at the evidence. It means that we work together to do the work that we're supposed to be doing. And I don't know any board that becomes a good board without spending a little bit of time evaluating how they do as a board. That's part of being a board member. Working with your team to see if you might do business better. We might be more respectful. We might listen better. We may speak better. We may use our time more wisely. I don't think it's dangerous to ask these 5 questions at the end of the meeting. It might add a minute to the end of our meeting, because all we're asking, all I'm proposing is that we just very quick and dirty do a thumbs up or thumbs down. And I think that gives the chair of each of us an opportunity after each meeting. I ask these questions of myself when I leave. Did I listen more than I talked? Did I go in and learn something today from my fellow commissioners? Did I speak when it made a difference and keep my mouth shut when it didn't? These are important questions to ask. And I don't know why we wouldn't jump on board and give it a try. And if these are the wrong questions, all I would urge us to do is figure out a way that we might, on a regular basis, say, how are we doing together? So that's the reason for the proposal.
Mr. Longer.
Thank you. I will not be participating in evaluating my peers. I do that now. I would never dare vocalize my evaluations. What matters to me is what the residents of this county feel about me, how they evaluate me, if I'm going to put this much thought into the whole evaluation process. This board, if they want to evaluate, to be evaluating, how did Chet do? He works for us. How is our attorney doing? He works for us. How are our employees doing? They're running this county for us. That's what we should be evaluating, not, are you using our time effectively? No, this is not using our county staff time effectively, and it certainly wouldn't be to do it twice a month at our meetings or more with special meetings.
Call the question?
Well, I don't have a second to that, so, but because I wanted to speak some, did you want to second it?
I did before. You mean
Second his
No, just quick, this is to call the question.
Yeah.
Two commissioners have to call questions.
Okay, yeah.
If two commissioners call a question, there's no
There's
debate,
no debate.
and then you vote on the question.
Okay, I will.
Okay, so we'll call the question. Well, we better do a roll call.
So right now, we're just calling a question.
Yes.
Commissioner Wessel,
Yes.
Commissioner Allgaier,
Yes.
Chairman Bonnick,
No.
Commissioner Lochner,
No.
Commissioner Robbins,
No.
Commissioner Rushton,
No.
Commissioner Sotos,
Yes.
3-4 fails.
Okay, so we'll go back to the debate. And I-
You had something to say, and
Yes.
I want to hear it. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate, I think, what you're trying to do here, Commissioner West. And I think your intentions are to bring us together to try to make us a more cohesive board. But in the atmosphere of this day, I think it would divide us. If I criticize a fellow Republican, nobody thinks too much about it. But if I was to say something critical of one of the Democrats on the board, it would become very political. And I don't, I don't want to have to be in a place where I have to always compliment somebody. If that's the reason to have this, then it becomes, and not to be derogatory, but it becomes a kumbaya time where we're all trying to say, you're doing a good job. And so I think to add this to our minutes at this time, I think is the wrong time to do it. But I mean, I do appreciate what you're trying to do here. And I think you have the right attitude, and I think we all need to work towards that. And I think you're right, but I don't think that adding this to our agenda at this time is going to help this commission, especially in the newspaper. And that's really the sense, and that's why I can't support it, but I just wanted to say that, because I don't want to just say, no, I don't want to do it. Because I understand what you're trying to do for us, and thank you for that. Commissioner Allen.
And I would just like to add to that, I don't think the intent is to criticize each other. I think it's to be retrospective about, okay, did we accomplish some things about the meeting? So I don't think anybody ever meant that we were gonna criticize each other.
True, but I mean, I think that, well, anyway, you've heard what I have to say, so. Yes.
I guess the other thing is, but what if it goes the other way? You don't intend to criticize, but what if it goes the other way? Then the positive that you're trying to bring to the board now becomes a negative. You see what I'm saying? We're commissioners, we're elected officials. We're not employees where we get rated. Our voters rate us and the job we do on this board. If they don't like what we do, we're not going to be sitting here in 2 years. That's the true fact of the issue. Our voters rate us.
Commissioner Sutis.
My understanding of what Commissioner Wessel was offering is something that I regularly experience at the two boards that I chair for, the 501c3 boards. It's simply a summary at the end of the meeting in terms of here's what we did, here's where we are, here's next steps moving forward, which has always been useful. I hear there are some other interpretations of what that would be. And I would agree, we certainly wouldn't want to get in a situation of trying to criticize one another or criticize the actions of one another. I think it was intended, as you said, Chairman Bunnick, positive, with simply a summary of, these were the positive things that came out of this meeting, or these were the things discussed, here's where we're going, here's our next steps forward in summary to conclude the meeting. Perhaps that isn't needed, but I think that's what Commissioner Wessel was offering us.
Any other comments? So let's have a roll call vote on this. I'm sorry. Mr.
That's
Rossi.
the question. I'm new at this, but can we still add something to our rules here? I'm going to make a move.
Yeah, well, I
Do
mean,
this motion?
we have a motion on, so we have to do that. Then we can go again for, to try to pass them or change, if you want to change it or anything. But this is just that really, if we're going to accept them with this added to it.
Okay.
Is that correct, Commissioner Wilson?
That's correct, and I'm looking here and seeing how my motion was interpreted, and it was not intended to cause disunity. And if that's what it's doing, I'd rather pull it off than then do that. I think we need to, I think we could work better as a board than we do. I think my neighbors tell me you guys gotta do business better. And that was intended to do it. It was not intended to evaluate anybody. But I will withdraw my motion because I think it may, the vote may not accomplish what I wanted to accomplish.
Is that okay, Commissioner Elbar?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so that's withdrawn. So go ahead, Commissioner Rotten. That's off the table. One, something new.
Something that I've noticed since I've been a commissioner here for 6 weeks, that I think should be added to our rules of business is when we're in session that so none of us get in trouble, that our cell phones stay underneath the table, not on the desk. You can put them on vibrate. I'm just afraid that someone in here could get in trouble and it's not worth it. And I think it's fair that all 7 of us just keep our cell phones underneath the desk, put it on vibrate, and on breaks or lunch, we can look at our messages. So I would like to make a move to.
That's a motion to.
Make a motion.
Add that to the board rules.
Under board rules, that our cell phones stay underneath their desk.
Do we have a second? No.
I can certainly support that motion. As I pointed out in an earlier meeting, I know there was some commissioners texting each other during the meeting last fall that alarmed me and I think was an Open Meetings Act violation. So I certainly think that this is perhaps a necessary step to take. I was wondering where we would put it in the rules. I'm digging for my board rules. Any suggestions? Do you have those in front of you, Chet?
I do not have it in front of me, I apologize. We can come up with that. I can tell you from a legal perspective, there's a court case about 29 in Charlevoix County. I happened to be there at the meeting. There was texting going on between commissioners and someone in the audience. There's a court case filed. If you text during a meeting, your text messages become foilable. So there is a legal concern about that. It got challenged. It got appealed. The courts ruled that if it happens while you're at a public meeting, if you're texting, your text messages are foilable.
Chuck, does that also apply to if you're sending emails to somebody?
If you're using your private email account during a public meeting, whether it's a text or email, then yes.
Okay.
Any email sent on your county email, obviously,
It's
would be
automatically
foilable anywhere.
Yeah, it's available.
But your actions during a board meeting, whether it's a text
Anything.
or email, if it's occurring during a board meeting, would be foilable.
The reason I asked that question, because I noticed that Commissioner Sotis Little, oftentimes, it appears as though she uses a private computer or has used a private computer in the past. So if we're going to talk about cell phones and off the table, maybe we should address using private laptops, because
I would repeat what I said at the organizational meeting. I would strongly urge you not to use your personal emails, not to use your personal computers for county business. The minute you do, there's potential it's foilable.
correct. So if we're going to put cell phones off the table, I think we should put private computers as well off the table.
Just electronic devices.
Yeah.
Commissioner Elm, are you through? Commissioner?
I am, thank you.
Okay.
Except if you're Zooming, yeah, we have to use our private computer for that.
Why?
Well, because I'm trying to follow the packet here, and I can't do my Zoom on this and be following packet. I use this, so.
There's nothing foilable about a Zoom meeting. It's public record, it's foilable, so you can use any device you want to get on the Zoom. But if you're communicating with someone, that's the difference. If you're communicating with someone during a meeting using a private device, whether it's a phone, an extra computer, whatever, during the course of a meeting, that is potentially foilable.
What about consulting?
Commissioner Sotis Little.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes. As people know, when I'm at the meetings, I do take notes on my laptop, which is the county laptop. And all of my records are on the county laptop. I have received from staff and others emails because people know my email. And it is a good date I did to transfer and make sure all emails come from there. But like Gwen just said, when I'm home here, I have my laptop with the agenda and necessary information that's been sent to the meeting so I can see it. And I have to Zoom on my personal computer because otherwise it's impossible to do both. So, and I look forward to joining the meeting as soon as I've had my second vaccination, because then I will still be wearing a mask, but less concerned that others are not. So therefore, I'm here today and I am using my personal laptop for Zooming, or excuse me, computer, but I use my laptop, which is the county laptop, for containing all of the materials that we're talking about tonight. And so I'm glancing over there at that occasionally and then back through my computer to see the rest of you and what's going on. Just thought I would clarify that.
Thank you. Thank you. Laura?
You have a line of text on the top of your agenda that states, please silence any unnecessary cellular electronic devices, which was passed by a board motion in September 2013.
We could add that right there in the agenda.
Right, add it right there.
So you're saying, but change it just a little bit by board motion rather than add it to the, because the only place in our board rules I can see maybe under order and decorum, chairman could, make sure all devices are removed, but you want to, that maybe by simple motion, we could have it say, instead of silence, remove.
Or disable.
Shut off.
Some organizations have disabled, use the word disable.
Yeah, okay, well, we can bring that back then maybe.
Well, we have a motion here on the table. Yeah. So it would be added and is that we're agreed that it could be added in that way?
Mr. Robbins, if you simply change that or modify a little bit to add it to the agenda.
Okay.
And I think that would cover everyone's objective.
Commission.
No, county clerk.
I'm sorry, clerk.
I just think in your motion, you should probably put there that we should check this out with legal counsel to see if you have the authority to tell someone they can't bring their cell phone into a meeting or if they can't have it by them. I mean, it just might be worth checking out legally.
Yeah. Commissioner West.
Yeah, I certainly don't have any problem with our rule saying that we are not to text or not to send personal emails during meetings. The iPad I have from the county is 7 years old. I use my own iPad. My iPad Air the battery lasts 3 times as long. It's much quicker, much faster, and the keyboard doesn't need to be charged. So I want to use my personal iPad. I don't care whoever FOIAs it because I don't care if anybody sees what I do on it. I won't do personal stuff during the meeting, but I want to use my up-to-date technology.
Yeah, I think we're gonna, you can use that, but if you send anything during a meeting, if you send an email, you should send it on your county email server.
Right.
How you get the email is one thing, but you cannot, not to pick on you, but you cannot send an email, you should not send an email on your private email address to anyone at any times, much less during a meeting. And if your iPad is 7 years old, we need to get you a new one because other ones are not that old. The ones we have for the rest of you, I think are 3 or 4 years old.
Time for new ones?
And maybe time for new ones for all of you. But how about maybe, I think the clerk is a good, you can adopt and change your board rules at any time. How about you approve the board rules now? We'll get a legal clarification on that and come back next month. Is that fair for everyone?
One thing, I wanted to make this simple. Didn't want to have a bunch of discussion here. I'm just trying to protect all of us. So I didn't say you couldn't bring the phone in. I just said it's underneath the desk and it's on vibrate. Pretty simple. The reason this came up was because of last Tuesday's meeting, I witnessed 3 commissioners having a 3-way text during our session. And I think you know who you are. And I'm trying to protect you. I didn't want to bring this out, but you made me do it because you wanted to argue it. I wanted to make something simple, but you blew it out of proportion. Commissioner Sulislo.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't, like Commissioner Wessel just said, I don't have any problem with not texting and not sending emails or doing other things during meetings. I don't do it anyway. But I do think the ability, for instance, when Melinda Lautner had to make a phone call, or Deb Rushton got a notice on her cell phone that she needed to reach out for family issues, you know, having your cell phone there on silent underneath the desk, wherever you want to put it, is fine. Just so that to not have it in the room doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I think it's good to get an attorney general ruling on this, but I think that we're beating a dead horse because I think we're all being pretty darn responsible.
Well, if you could pass the board rules in general without that, and we can put it on the agenda for March and get a final legal clarification how to go forward. Because you can change the board rules at any time.
Right.
Is that okay with you, Commissioner Roberts?
Yes.
Is that okay with you, Commissioner Walker? You seconded? All right, so that
Yeah,
motion is.
but two issues, we understand
Yeah.
that, because there's one thing having them silent
Yeah.
and not using them amongst other commissioners.
Yeah, so just
The
to
other half of
summarize,
it is, if we have commissioners texting each other, that's a problem.
I would urge no commissioners to text or send emails during any public meetings for your own protection. But in January, from January 5th meeting and at the 12th meeting, you actually made some minor changes to the board rules. Through our fault, we missed it. You discussed it, you approved it, there was no motion taken. So if you could just pass the motion to approve the board rules as presented in January, then we can modify anything you want to do at the March meeting.
Commissioner Walker.
I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners approve the 2021 County Board Rules of Order and Procedure forward and as presented.
Support.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. The motion passes 7-0. Thank you. So then that brings us to the record preservation.
Is that me?
Number 12 here on page 10.
I would move to waive the board's bid policy and approve and authorize the county clerk to enter into an agreement with CoFile for records preservation as outlined with a good faith estimate of $11,492.20 based on the page counts submitted, with billing occurring on the actual page count. So do you anticipate that that's going to increase, Michelle?
Oh, I hope not.
Okay. Funds to come from the county clerk's budget, special projects, and microfilming. Support?
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Then we're bringing us to the temporary support staff. Commissioner Walker.
I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners to approve the revised pay scale for the temporary office assistant as presented.
Support.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
Don't need the next motion.
We did the B, so now we're doing boards and commissions, appointment to Northern Lakes Community Mental Health. Commissioner Rushton.
I would move to appoint Greg McMurrow to the Northern Lakes Community Mental Health Board to a 3-year term expiring March 31st, 2024.
Support.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. That brings us to the Park and Recreation Commission appointment. Commissioner Lauder.
Quick question. If I may ask, Laurel, we're back to the original set of applications for that board, correct?
I checked with Mrs. Dickerson, she must have misunderstood when I stated county parks and rec.
Okay,
She said she does not have an interest in the county position.
okay, that's what I read. I just wanted to make sure before I make my motion. And I would move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners appoint Michael E. Smith to Parks and Recreation Commission to a partial term expiring December 31, 2023.
I'll second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. The motion passes 7-0. That brings us to administration.
Did you do that tomorrow?
Yes.
Yes, we did. Commissioner Wesson.
Just I move to accept the 2% allocation awards from the Grand Traverse Band of Ottawa and Chippewa Indian as presented.
Support?
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. That brings us to Substance Abuse Coalition. The contract. Commissioner Rushton.
I would move to extend the agreement between Leelanau County and Greg McMorrow for consult services on behalf of the Leelanau County Substance Abuse Prevention Coalition as presented. Funds to come from account ending in 101-967-019.
Support?
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. So now we have the funding assistance.
There is no update. We'll move that to the March
I thought
meeting.
I was gonna say, we moved that.
Yeah.
All right, so then that brings us to first responders recognition resolution.
Do you want a motion for us to recognize our first responders, or will we just be?
Well, we've got a resolution out.
I believe it was passed on through you to sign.
We signed them all, so.
But you have to vote on it. so-
Okay, to send them out? Okay.
We made the assumption that you would vote on it.
I would
so
be
we-
happy to move that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners recognize our first responders through resolution or.
Or, okay, this would be a roll call vote.
Commissioner Lautner,
Yes.
Commissioner Robbins,
Yes.
Commissioner Rushton,
Yes.
Commissioner Sotos,
Yes.
Commissioner Wessel,
Yes.
Commissioner Albire,
Yes.
Chairman Bonney,
Yes.
7-0.
Thank you.
If any of you would like to help Matt Ansberg and I distribute those, if you're going to a township meeting or a fire department meeting, just let us know and we'll give those certificates for you. They are personalized, as you know, we signed quite a few of them. But I think it's a nice recognition of all their efforts, and we'll buy the ad in the Leelanau Enterprise once again.
Yes, that brings us then to review of financials.
I had my question answered earlier, so thank you.
All right, and committee reports, recommendations, or resolutions? Seeing none, and special reports? And so then that would bring us to public comment, or can you please call 231-256-8109, 231-256-8109.
Hi, public comment? Go ahead, Steve.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
This is Steve Mikowski from Leelanau. Just a couple of comments. Appreciate all your efforts in starting to do the business, and I believe that Commissioner Rushton has described it quite well by indicating that everything you do must be for the people that you are to serve and will pay you and pay your salaries with the best possible way.
Steve,
Yes,
could you turn down your computer or your television?
yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, yes.
Go ahead, Steve.
I was just indicating that Commissioner Rushton called it out properly, doing the business for the people. I'm somewhat perplexed about the goals and objectives. One of the goals and objectives I would support, but none of the others, would be that the county would evaluate zero-based budgeting. That would be a very meritorious effort on the part of the county to understand how that could benefit the people and the taxpayers, because I believe that we are still overtaxed by the county. And the other point I want to bring up, that the way we're going about this septic tank thing, Mr. Ensor called it out right at the end of his presentation before he left the commission by saying there are no problems that he's aware of regarding septic tanks in Leelanau County. So there must be something going on. Either our health department is failing us and there are problems and we're not being informed, or we are perhaps trying to find some phantom problem that does not exist. So we should be careful as we proceed with these things, and not spend money on projects, consultants, and other things unless there's a need or necessity and justification can be proven. On the other issue, I have emailed all you commissioners a 2-page document on the Colbert Pittman strategy, and it looks to me like our counties and townships have been going in that direction. The 4 steps of the Colbert Pittman strategy is overload and break the welfare system. Have chaos ensue. Keep control and chaos. Implement socialism and communism throughout the government force. And that's where we're going, the way I can see it, by attending county commission and township board meetings for 30 years. I'll also spend a moment describing Mr. Fuscaro, who wrote about this also. Look at all the government county-funded programs initiated over the past several years to take control of your wealth, your property, and your property rights under the guise of utopian environmentalism. The founding fathers, in their Declaration of Independence, specified property, but left it out of the documents using the pursuit of happiness, because they did not want to tie in slavery into the project. So we want to be very careful as we go along with what our county commission is doing. We need to prioritize, simplify, do the business for people. I know you're working hard at it, but I think in watching part of the meeting that I could not get into earlier, we need to have more focus and more priority and abandon things that are feel-good things that are ego massagers. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Please call 231-256-8109. And if you have a device on with YouTube, please turn that down. 231-256-8109. We'll take calls if they come in, but at this time, then we'll go to commissioner comments. Commissioner Locke.
I just wanted to say publicly, thank you to Sheriff and Deputy Bosher for the tour of the training facility in the basement of the jail. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot. It's an incredible tool for them to have. So I want to thank them for it.
Commissioner Alvar.
I just hope that we'll all be careful about accusing each other of things that we're not accusing each other of things. We have no idea if they're really true. I think we have to be careful there.
Commissioner West.
Yeah, I just want to reaffirm that me putting forth that rules of order addendum was meant to be very, very positive. I think I have a lot to learn from my colleagues here. I think every once in a while, my colleagues here could learn from me. And I think once in a while, evaluating how we're doing together is a very positive thing. So if I irritated any of you on that, I'm going to go home and ask myself these 5 questions.
Thank you. Commissioner West.
And I just want to let Commissioner Wessel know that we don't mind you asking those questions over lunch. I just don't believe that.
If I'm eating long?
Right. I just don't believe that we should engage in that. And you may participate with other boards in this fashion. However, we are an elected board, which I think makes a difference as opposed to an appointed board. We are answerable to the people we serve. And I appreciate your intent. However, I think it's better we leave things the way they are.
Commissioner Sulis.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to clarify for the record, I did inadvertently miss the start of a board meeting on January 19th of this year. I was reviewing that night's meeting material, waiting for the meeting to begin, since I was Zooming, and didn't realize that the sound on my computer was off. And I think you all remember my glancing up to seeing you trying to get my attention for roll call. And I realized I had no sound and was surprised and embarrassed that I had missed the start of the meeting, the pledge and the moment of silence for the first time in 6 years. The Pledge of Allegiance is our opportunity to recognize with gratitude that we are part of a nation that offers liberty and justice for all, and to do so with gratitude for all those who have come before us, ensuring our freedoms continue enjoying liberty and justice. And it's something I actually look forward to and repeat with gusto. So I thank Gary Zimaitis for noting that this evening so that I had a chance to explain to anybody else who might have been watching and wondering why I didn't stand up. So thank you, Gary.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, then we'll move on then to approval of financials. Commissioner Oscar. I do think we have amendments and transfers.
I would move to approve amendment number 21-002 and 21-003.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
I would move to approve fund transfer number 21-002.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0.
I would move to approve claims and accounts $286,785.37.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed, the same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Post audit.
I move to approve post audit $2,425,571.15.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand.